dealing with the square of opposition. It is one of the schemes to determine the truth and falsity of propositions. When we say proposition, it pertains to categorical statements that either affirm or deny something. So we have here the square of opposition. It is a chart which represents the logical flow or relationships between propositions. It was believed to have been introduced during the time of Aristotle. In determining the truth using the square of opposition, the propositions are represented by the symbols A, E, I, and O. And what do these symbols mean? The symbol A stands for affirmative universal or singular statements, meaning to say whatever it states here is universal or singular propositions that are in a positive form. Now, what do you mean by universal proposition? When we say universal proposition, it means those which universally apply to everybody or everything. It affirms something of all members of a class. And when we say singular propositions, it pertains to one definite group or individual. To fully understand this, let's take a look in our examples. All men are living beings. And the other one is every man is a thinking being. As you can see, these statements apply to everybody or every man. It affirms something of all members of class that makes it a universal proposition and also pertains to one definite group which are men. Next, the symbol E stands for negative universal or singular statement. In other words, what are written here is a negative form. And it denies something of all members of class. Example, no man is immortal. As you can see here, what makes it a negative universal is because we use negative words such as no and the prefix im, and it denies something of all members or class. Look at the keywords, no man, so it denies. Another example, an animal is not a plant. As you can see here, we use negative word not, and it denies something which is an animal is not a plant. Next is the symbol I. It stands for affirmative particular statements. It shows particular propositions that are in positive form, which stands for a part or an indefinite part of a whole. In other words, it doesn't pertain to all. It only applies to its parts. Example, when I say some men are professionals, it means that not all people are professionals. There are only some. It doesn't apply to all. And when I say some plants are fruit-bearing, it only means that not all plants bear fruits. And for the symbol of O, it stands for negative particular statements. It is also similar to symbol letter I. The only difference is that the symbol O is written in negative form. Example, some men are not achievers. Most Filipinos are not white. As you can see here, we use negating words such as the word not and does not pertain to all. In the first proposition, it means that not all men are achievers. And in the second proposition, it means that majority but not all Filipinos are not white or brown. Now, those statements or categorical propositions are characterized by subject-predicate relationship. The elements of proposition are the subject, predicate, and the copula. The subject is the one being talked about. The predicate is the one that affirms or negates, or let's say denies the subject. It always tells something about the subject, and both the subject and the predicate are linked by the copula or the so-called linking verb. Example, in the statement, all men are mortal. The subject is the word men, the predicate is the word mortal, and the copula used is the word are. Another example, no man is immortal. The subject is man. The predicate is immortal, and the copula is the word is. So other forms of copula are was, were, etc. Using the subject-predicate relationship, propositions could be presented by the following patterns. It is like a logical form. Its function is similar to what I have discussed earlier. The only difference is that it is written in logic form. For A propositions, all S are P, where every S is P. For E propositions, no S is P or every S is not P. For I propositions, some S are P. And for O propositions, some S are not P. The square of opposition is a convenient and effective tool in determining the truth value of propositions. To do this, let's see the relationship of the propositions which is shown in this figure. This will help you easily remember the square of opposition. Now let's discuss the terms involved here. First is the contraries. The contraries consist of symbols A and E, where both propositions are universal statements, but one is affirmative and the other one is negative. In other words, propositions are considered contraries if both statements cannot be true at the same time. For example, the A proposition, all men are mortal, cannot be true at the same time as its counterpart E proposition, which is no man is mortal. Meaning to say, if one is true, the other is false. But if one is false, the other is doubtful. This can be illustrated on the truth table of contrary propositions, which you can see below. If the affirmative universal proposition or A symbol is true, then the negative universal or E symbol is false. But if the affirmative universal proposition A symbol is false, then the negative universal or E symbol is doubtful. On the other table, if the negative universal E symbol is true, the affirmative universal is false. And if the negative universal E symbol is false, the affirmative universal is doubtful. Let's have another example for this. If it's true that all men are rational beings, then the statement that no man is a rational being is false. As you can see here, the first statement or E symbol is true. That's why the second statement or E symbol is false. Next example. If it is false that men are mortal, then the statement that no man is immortal is doubtful. Here, since the first statement or A symbol is false, then the second statement or E symbol, no man is immortal, is doubtful. Now, to be really familiar with contraries, let's have another set of examples. Number 1, every opportunity is a doorway to success. Symbol letter A, it is affirmative universal. It affirms something of all members or class. Next, every opportunity is not a doorway to success. Symbol E, it is a negative universal. It denies something. As you can see here, since the affirmative universal is considered as true, meaning to say the negative universal is false, so it contradicts. Another example, all Paulette students are Paulinians, that is a symbol. Next, all Paulette students are not Paulinians, that is E symbol. Or to state negative universal, you can also write no Paulette students are Paulinians. letter E. Now let's move on to subcontraries. It consists of symbols I and O. Here, statements or propositions can be considered subcontraries if it is impossible for both to be false. Here, if the one or first proposition is true, the other or second proposition is doubtful. And if one is false, the other is true. To fully understand this, let's have examples. If it is true that some animals are feathered creatures, then the claim that some animals are not feathered is doubtful. Next, if it is false that some Filipinos are not philosophers, then the claim that some Filipinos are philosophers is true. As you can see here, it applies the notion if the one or first proposition is true, the other or second proposition is doubtful. And if one is false, the other is true. Okay, let's have another example. Some opportunity is a doorway to success. So that is symbol letter I. Another example. Some opportunity is not a doorway to success. That is symbol letter O. Next is the subalterns, which come in two pairs. We have AI and EO. In this particular proposition, if the universal proposition is true, A and E, the particular proposition is also true, I and O. But if the universal proposition is false, A and E, the particular proposition is doubtful, I and O. And if the particular proposition is true, I and O, the universal proposition is doubtful, A and E. But if the particular proposition is false, I and O, the universal proposition is false, A and E. Now let's have examples. Letter A, if it is true that men are rational beings, A, affirmative universal, then the claim that some men are rational beings is also true, affirmative particular. Another example, if it is false that some men are immortal, I, affirmative particular, then the claim that all men are immortal is also false, affirmative universal. Or letter A. Other examples we have, every opportunity is a doorway to success. Letter A, affirmative universal. Next, some opportunity is not a doorway to success. O, negative particular. Next, we have every opportunity is not a doorway to success. That is letter E, negative universal. We also have some opportunity is not a doorway to success. That is letter O, or negative particular. Next, let's have contradictories. There are two pairs of contradictories. We have AO and EI. Here, if A is true, then O is false. If E is true, then I is false. This goes to show that propositions are contradictory if the truth of one proposition implies the falsity of the other. Example, if it is true that all men are mortal, or A, affirmative universal, then the proposition that some men are not mortal, or E or O, negative particular, is false. Another example, if it is false that every opportunity is not a doorway to success, E or negative universal, then it is true that some opportunity is a doorway to success, I, affirmative particular. So that's all. I hope you've learned something from me today. Thank you.